Welcome to Quirky French Podcast, the podcast that helps you speak more confidently, feel more focused, and be more in control of your French learning journey. Prêt? C'est parti! Bonjour and welcome to episode 10 of Quirky French Podcast, the podcast that will show you how you can become a confident speaker even if you're shy and insecure about your French. My name is Naima from quirkyfrench.com, and in today's episode, we're going to do something completely different because in exactly 15 minutes, you'll speak better French. Wait, what? Yes, you heard me. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to dramatically improve your speaking, even if you don't learn any more grammar and vocabulary. But more importantly, I'm going to show you how you can improve your speaking, even if you get nervous and if you tend to freeze up when you speak. Well, actually, let me rephrase. In today's episode, you are going to show yourself how you can completely transform your speaking. It's going to happen live. You're going to experiment and see for yourself as I share tips with you in this new interactive podcast episode. Have you ever been in a situation where you start to talk, but you start mumbling and panicking? It's like you know what you should say in theory, but your mind goes blank and you freeze up. Or you're so focused on trying to build a sentence that you end up overcomplicating things, you get stuck, and you can't find your way back to where you were. You feel frustrated, disappointed in yourself, and you know that you didn't do your best. Usually, isolated incidents are no big deal, but sometimes you get so nervous and feel under so much pressure that it exacerbates the problem and you end up completely paralyzed. Over time, your speaking skills decline, or worse, you end up avoiding conversations altogether or thinking that there's something wrong with you. I've actually been there myself, and the truth is, I still get nervous sometimes. But if I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't have spent that much time thinking that there was something wrong with me. So I genuinely understand what you're going through. The difference for me is that I learned to manage it. And today, I want to help you develop a strategy that can allow you to stay grounded when you speak so that you can really channel all your potential, give it your all, and do your absolute best every time. First of all, it all starts with your brain. It's important to know that and to realize what happens in your brain when your mind goes blank, because it allows you to understand that this has nothing to do with your level of French or who you are as a learner. It's simply something that happens in the brain. When you worry about your speaking, your brain starts to perceive danger, and it triggers a switch in your brain called the amygdala, which causes the fight, flight, freeze response in your body. You can feel the physical effects of this, like shaking and your heart racing and so on, but it also shuts down the frontal lobe, the part of the brain that helps you retrieve your memories and is also responsible for problem solving and your language, amongst other things. So what happens? Your mind goes blank. You don't remember a word of French. You forgot all the grammar rules. You're completely confused, unable to build sentences together and process your thoughts. Here's the solution. You can learn to recenter, become grounded, and access all your brain with these simple actions. But instead of just telling you about them, we're going to do a little experiment together. Here it is. I'm going to ask you a basic question in English, and then I'll stop talking and you'll have 60 seconds to provide an answer out loud, and in French, of course, like a basic speaking exercise. When the 60 seconds are over, I'll let you know. But if it helps, take your phone out right now and set a timer so that you can also look at it as well. Make sure you speak out loud. Don't just practice in your head because, as you know, what happens in your head is nice and pretty and non-threatening. And the problem actually happens when you open your mouth. This is when you're most likely to get stuck. Okay? So we're going to do this 3 times, and each time I'll give you a new tip. Simply notice the improvement every time you answer. Okay? Have you got your timer set? Ready? Okay, let's start with prompt number 1. Tell me about a childhood memory. The timer starts now. Go. Time's up. Bravo! Well done for answering if you did this. This is the first step to a brilliant exercise, so well done for taking the time to answer for an entire minute. Now, give yourself a score between 1 and 5 based on how well you think you did, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest score. Don't judge the story itself. Instead, just think of the quality of the language. So here are some questions for you. Did you manage to express everything you meant to say? Did you feel under pressure? And how did you manage to build sentences in spite of the 60-second limit? And did you freeze and get stuck, and how did you get by? Perhaps you completed the exercise like most learners. You may have felt under a lot of pressure, felt really rushed, and you couldn't express what you meant to express really well, and everything became a bit of a blur. If that's the case, this is completely normal, and that's one of the reasons I created this exercise with a timer. It is meant to create a bit of pressure. Okay, so here's prompt number 2 now, with a new question. This time, hold off for 10 seconds before you speak, okay? I want you to take your time. Use the first 10 seconds to pause and think before you say anything. So in effect, you'll have 10 seconds of thinking time and only 15 seconds of talking time. It might seem like an awfully short amount of time, but you'll see what happens. You'll see the difference in the quality of your answer. If you need to reset your timer, do it now before prompt number 2. Okay? Okay, let's go. Prompt number 2. Tell me about your favorite food. Timer starts now. Now think. Now speak. Time's up. Super, bien joué. Again, well done. So how did it feel this time? How did it feel having less time to talk, but more time to think? Again, give your answer a score between 1 and 5. Can you see what happened? Your answer was clearer. You didn't give in to the panic. You didn't rush. And as language learners, we often assume that we need to talk immediately and we need to show that we can speak well. But if you do this, you're more likely to get stuck and freeze because you don't really know where you're going with your answer. And so this is lesson number 1. Take your time. Don't give in to the pressure to talk immediately, okay? This is going to make a huge difference in your clarity and your overall delivery. Okay, let's get ready for prompt number 3. You can reset your phone too. Now, during the first 10 seconds of thinking time, now think of 3 bullet points for your answer, like a beginning, a middle, and an end to your answer, okay? And then 50 seconds talking time. Ready? Prompt number 3. Tell me about the last movie you watched. Timer starts now. Now think. Now speak. Time's up. Excellent. Bravo. Again, well done. And how did this feel this time? This time round, you had time to think and you planned your answer. So again, like the previous stage, rate your answer between 1 and 5. So when you have bullet points, an actual sequence in mind, you can elaborate and develop your answer a lot more easily. You know exactly where you're going from start to finish. You're not limited by your words because now you're guided by your ideas, and it allows you to focus on getting your point across rather than being hung up on words. And that's lesson number 2. Think in terms of ideas, of main points, not in terms of words. This is going to help you express your message a lot more efficiently. So well done for completing this little experiment. It's a simple and extremely powerful exercise that shows you how you can calm down, regain control, and allow your brain to work at its best. Start doing this every time, and this is going to transform the way you speak. I even encourage you to do it in non-threatening situations as well. Just get used to the technique and see how much better your speaking becomes. Now, you just did this interactive activity via podcast. Perhaps you still got stuck, and that's completely normal. When I do it live with my students, we spend a lot of time diving into this exercise in more detail. And here are some things you can tweak. You can repeat the same prompts a few times. You can change the amount of thinking time and talking time. And also, this exercise works best if you tell the story to an actual human being, because you don't really stress as much when you're alone. So there's a lot of variables that you can play with now. So how can you use this exercise for real-life conversations? Well, you can go ahead and apply this technique immediately. Learn to sit in silence, even in real-life conversations. Over time, you'll be able to progressively work on the next stage, which is to reduce the amount of thinking time before you start answering. You'll be able to also incorporate fillers such as, "Ooh, that's a good question. I've never thought about this before." But this takes a lot of practice, so I wouldn't recommend it immediately. First, simply get used to pausing before you talk. Learn to sit in silence. And if that makes you feel very uncomfortable, simply use a phrase such as, laisse-moi réfléchir, or laissez-moi réfléchir, meaning, let me think. Then allow yourself to take all the time you need before you answer. So a little reminder of today's quirky tips. Take your time, don't feel pressured to answer immediately, and plan 3 bullet points. Think in terms of ideas and not words. This technique is going to help you recenter, speak more clearly, gain control of the pace of your answer, and help you get your point across efficiently. Today's episode was mostly about when you start to talk, but in future episodes, I'll also show you how you can recover from a brain freeze. I hope you found this episode helpful, and let me know if you enjoyed the format, and I'll incorporate more interactive episodes like this in the future. If you enjoyed this exercise, you can go ahead and download a free bonus available at quirkyfrench.com/podcast/episode 10, where you will be able to practice with prompt cards and train with a variety of time limits. Well, time to say goodbye. I will catch up with you next week for another episode of Quirky French Podcast. But until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep it quirky. À la semaine prochaine. Ciao!